stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have roll call vote, starting to my left.
Allison Stevens, student rep.
Bill Fonseca.
Rich Fitzgerald. Gregory Thompson.
Deirdre Mayu.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Elizabeth Marcin Boucher.
Valerie Anier, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Okay, and at this point, we want to have a recognition of our student representative. Okay, so Ally, just come forward. We want to thank you for all the hard work that you've done on the committee. And we have a little gift of recognition for you. We always appreciate the student rep and all your input. So it's a little gift from us to you. So if you want to just open it, you can show everyone here. Gordon, I don't know if you want to say anything.
All planned out. We want to thank you for everything you contributed this year and your service to the committee. So
Thank you.
And again, we're looking for all. And hopefully you'll come back and maybe give us an update on how your first year went.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Cool.
Jen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, we'll take a little.
Yeah, really nice. Very good.
Plaque.
Nice job.
So you can always remember us with that.
What are you doing?
You can bring it to college with you, yeah, and think of us. All right, so moving down, we have approval of April 23rd, 2018 regular session meeting minutes.
Bless you.
I make a motion to approve the April 23rd, 2018 regular session meeting minutes.
Okay, motion made
I'll second.
and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0. All right, we have committee and subcommittee communications. So Ally, starting with you, please.
Okay. Well, at the high school, we just finished all of our AP testing last week, so we all hope we did good on those. They were good. Senior final exams are this week, and then graduation is on June 1st.
You must be excited. We got prom coming up
Coming
too.
down.
Yeah, exciting things all around.
Right. All right. Bill.
MASC will be is hosting a Summer Institute July 20th and 21st, and the courtyard by Marriott in Marlboro. As I get more information, I will let everybody know.
Great. Thank you. Rich, moving on to you. Do you have
Just
anything?
one
you'd
item,
like-
I want to thank Ms. Marcia Boucher for choosing me to be the celebrity bartender. We were last year,
that's
right?
right.
I was.
Yeah.
How'd
And
it go?
I was busy as hell.
Nice.
I thought it was
That's
gonna
what
be
you want to
easy.
say out there.
I'm sorry.
They
I thought it was gonna be easy.
they like to pick people with lots of friends.
But it was mobbed.
Yeah.
And it was busy,
great.
yeah. so
That's very nice of
it was-
Mario's too.
Yeah, it was.
Open up the
Good setting,
restaurant for
yeah.
them.
So that's it for me.
Okay.
I am all set, thank you.
Okay, I just want to mention that we had a great time participating in the Spartan Town Hall. I think it was great conversations that we had, and obviously in light of something else that has just gone on, the conversation needs to continue. And I'm not looking to put anyone on the spot, but obviously actions have to be taken in terms of
absolutely.
safety and security for schools across the country, not just in our district, but definitely concentrating on what we can be doing to help our students. So it was a great starting point, I think, and just to have it continue, so thank you. And besides that, I don't have anything else, if anyone wanted to add to that, because
No,
we're all there,
it was
so
good.
thank you.
I'd love to thank you, though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice catch. All right.
Well, I can't go to the daytime things anymore, which is sad. But I
Right.
did go to the play at Birchland, which was fun. Peter Pan. I went instead of going to the E-Leaf event, and the kids did a really nice job. Also with E-Leaf, it just came out of the blue. They didn't even approach them. Heart Springs.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I
right.
saw
They put out a little competition between us and Long Meadow, and we won. We had 11,000 pounds of
Is that good?
items.
Yeah.
That's good. They had 8,000. I loved it. I was like, how many bags can I put on the? So we won $500 for E-Leaf, which was kind of neat. So.
There's E-Leaf against Leaf?
Yeah, and they didn't even know about it. I saw somebody sent it who works in Long Meadow, said, hey, and lives in town. Do we know about this? And I'm like, no. So they put it out there and
Threw down the gauntlet,
And we
Long
did.
Meadow won.
Yeah.
All right.
there you go.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Yep.
All right. At this point, this would be, everyone's done with that, so at this point, it would be an opportunity for visitors to address the committee. So if anyone is here to address the committee, this is the time you would come up to speak. Do y'all want to come up or just bring Sam? All right, so coming back is Mr. Stan Leone.
So I spoke to some members of my class about the issue of class rank, and I just wanted to bullet point some quick ideas and concerns regarding implementation for next year. So the first concern that was brought up is that at the end of our sophomore year and at the recent end of the semester in our junior year, we were given not official but preliminary class ranks.
I don't understand.
Siri disagrees?
Apparently Siri does disagree. But my understanding with that is that people would have that kind of preliminary understanding of where they stand among their peers. So even if we were to abolish class rank, that idea would kind of just be set in stone. So even if the school doesn't give you another one before the end of your senior year, you'd think, well, if I was second in my class in junior year, I must still be second in my class. And people would just kind of observe it like that in terms of ranking themselves. The other thing is that I think it's important to look at the class of 2019 uniquely. Obviously, there was a very contentious debate over valedictorian in years past, but I think when you look at the class of 2019, top 5, especially valedictorian and salutatorian candidates so far, they're all on friendly terms, so I don't think you'd have too vicious of a battle with that in terms of that sort of animosity. The other issue is that we weren't really communicated. I mean, I was at a school council meeting, so I heard about the issue of class rank potentially being eliminated and why it might not be too significant in the process of college admissions. But generally, that information wasn't communicated to our class. And now that the scheduling process is over for the 2018 to 2019 school year, people have already taken honors, AP classes they might not have otherwise in order to boost their rank. And guidance counselors do encourage them to do so. So the last thing that I would like to say is that our recommendation is to keep the institution of class rank for the class of 2019, but just make clear to the students that it's not too significant a factor in college admissions, so that way you can eliminate the stress, but people can have the system that they've been familiar with, they've had for 3 years, and they've already had substantiated to a degree. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We appreciate you coming here and doing some research like that. Thank you. Oh, Matt, you're coming up.
Excuse me, Hi there.
Matt, how are you? This is Mr. Matt Wilson.
So I'm going to kind of touch upon what Sam said, just wanted a more bubbly, light tone. So, as he was saying, like, 'cause we've known our class rank for the whole year now, and a lot of kids have focused on their class rank, and it's driven them more to push themselves more, be more successful. So I realize the sophomores and the freshmen and anyone younger than that haven't seen their class rank yet, but they're still driving themselves. But I feel class rank so far for us is pushing our grade to like move themselves forward and become more successful with their high school career. And I feel it would be detrimental to us to take it away at this stage because we're already moving on to our senior year where life's about to get crazy, and it's just validation when you see that number. I realize for people at the lower spectrum, you don't see the validation, but if you've worked really hard for all these 4 years and you see that number like top 50, even that, you're just really proud of yourself and it pushes you. And it just makes you feel good for what you've done and how hard you've worked. And we've already felt a little bit of the validation, but I feel it would be better if we just finished it off and just, what I'm trying to say is that it would be better is if we just let that pass and let us keep it as is, and then there's not going to be a mess with the whole, because the past 2 years, valedictorian and all that, has been not the nicest situation, clearly, but this year, clearly not happening, and the next year, I don't see it happening because they're all very close and good friends that are amongst the top 5, and no one's going to try to gut someone dead, but that's not the best way to say it. But
So you're looking something more for like a transition?
yeah. So like inform people that it's going to be happening, but kind of like a year gap to where people who have already seen their class rank don't have to worry about it. But anyone that hasn't seen it yet, just it doesn't happen because nothing really changes if they haven't seen it. But because we've already seen it, it would just kind of agitate people more to have it disappear and never seen again. And it would cause more of an uprising, in my opinion.
Ms. Mayo, I know it's not an answering question, but could I ask a question?
If you would like to, yes.
I was just
Thank you.
wondering, how do you feel, I mean, I know how I feel about eliminating class rank, but how do you in general, over scoping for all the years to come, eliminating class rank? I'm just curious to have another student's opinion on that.
So I feel as if class rank does drive people to work harder, but obviously at the end of the day, the GPA there itself, and even if class rank, I assume there's going to be some sort of percentile, and that's going to drive people as well, but seeing the numbers kind of, in my opinion, drives more, but I feel as if it would work. It just, when you'd see maybe a little bit of a decrease in efforts made to boost themselves, in my personal opinion.
All right, thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, again, we appreciate it, thank you, Matt. Jenny, did you want to come up at all? Or you're good? All right, well, thank you, students. We'll take this into consideration. We do have this discussion coming up again on our agenda this evening, so thank you. Okay. All right, so moving on to 5.1.1, we have the East Long Meadow Public School life-threatening allergy policy/protocol. So at this point, we will have Kelly.
Ms. LeBombard, our nurse leader, coming out. We had changes to our guidelines for the life-threatening allergy procedures, and our nurses have been working hard to incorporate all these. In your packets, you have all the new elements in red. I don't think we're going to go through it page by page, but I
Unless
think
Richard would.
Mr. Fitzgerald may want it to be a presentation page by page. But
I have a medical
I think you,
background,
for
so
the
okay.
for the greater good, we'll probably we'll summarize the changes, and Ms. LeBombard will walk us through that.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
the policy is exactly the same, it's one page. The only thing new is that the managing life-threatening allergies in schools was updated by DESE and DPH. So there's a resource on the bottom of the page, and it just refers that it's from 2016. So the nurses and I went through the whole brand new managing life-threatening allergies in schools, and we added to what we already had. So everything in red is brand new. So it goes through everybody's responsibilities. So the first is family responsibilities, and those have increased. Basically, asking parents to educate their children as appropriate. As they get older, teach their friends how to give EpiPens, how to look for signs and symptoms. Then it goes into student responsibility, and there's not too many differences there. Just that students should participate in the management of their allergies. They should learn to recognize. Then it goes into school responsibilities. So we get free EpiPens for schools. So we have those available in health rooms. That everybody is trained, all staff are trained before the first day of school. What's this one? So there's not too many changes there. The last four are new, though. Establish emergency, okay. I'll go over that later, because that goes on to the cardiac response. Then the school nurse responsibility, which really hasn't changed that much. We did incorporate a new form, the anaphylaxis emergency action plan, that the physician signs. So the classroom, that's brand new. So teachers need to be familiar with their students that have this, and need to recognize. So I don't know if you got a chance to read this, and if you have any questions, because I don't want to take your time and go through the whole thing.
Well, I just had one question. It's really more just on semantics of a word. On page 3,
Yep.
pardon, I'll go back to page 3. In number 12, because what was put in red, was that recommended by DESE or DPH to make the wording? Because it says, the red, the second sentence, after-school activities are considered an extension of the school day. The word extension, it makes it sound like there would be a nurse present, like it is part of the same day or hours of school.
Well-
I don't know if that's just a technicality.
So maybe we could word it differently, but what it means is...
Because if you look at the sentence before it, it says the school nurse is not present before or during after-school programs. After-school activities are considered an extension of the school day. It almost makes it sound like you would have a nurse there.
So that way you have to look at the students and what their medical needs are. We do have, there's been a few instances where nurses have stayed after school to
Okay,
give
so they do stay.
medication, or, yes.
Okay.
So generally, they are not, but it would be all individualized according to the student.
Kelly, that's one of my two questions. How is this, I'm just trying to imagine, every coach and every advisor does this? You can substantiate to us as a school committee that every advisor from the Key Club to the math team and every coach from freshman football to JV field hockey does this?
Not yet. That's why it's brand
This is
new.
only.
And the form,
Is there going to be a process for it? This is, to me, being a former advisor, this is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Okay?
well, we kind of started at the high school last year. The nurse doesn't always know what the student is doing after school.
Exactly.
So we really should educate staff if you're the staff person in charge after school. We actually are giving this form to parents, and there's instructions if your child has diabetes, life-threatening allergies, seizures. We just want you, the parent, to let the staff person know so that if there is an emergency, they know how to handle it. And there is I did give you a copy of that. It's called the co-curricular form, which we've had. Yeah. So we don't give it out to everybody, but once we know if a student is in a club or like Spartanum is one thing.
Right.
If there's a student in there that has diabetes or life-threatening allergy, this is the way for the parent to let that staff person
So the
know.
onus is on the parent. So if I'm Catholic dealing in Spartan, I have over 100 kids participating, and none of these kids say anything to me about having any kind of a life-threatening allergy, and God forbid something happens, and the question is, why wasn't the form filled out? Where does the responsibility lie? With the parent and the family, the school nurse, the advisor, the administration?
Well, what I think should happen is I think the nurse should know who the kids are,
Right.
the students are, look up and see whether they have a medical issue that could
Basically, you'd have
affect
to
after
share all your
school.
rosters with the school nurse.
Yes.
So that we can identify.
Wow.
That's-
Because kids come and go in Key Club,
Yeah.
they come and go, wow.
But this is a mandate. You're
No, it's not a mandate, but I think it's important. So if you have a diabetic after school,
right, but what about,
And-
like, I know we've had an increase in the number of kids that are diagnosed with allergies or even diabetes. What if there are multiple children participating or multiple students participating in any of these activities and one nurse is sufficient?
well, you don't necessarily have to have a nurse. It depends on the situation.
Right.
If it's a high school student, those
Right,
kids
they're
know
very
more
independent.
about their diabetes than anybody. But they should probably check their blood sugar or have snacks with them, or, it's
this is
just an awareness.
But do we start to take responsibility? Is that part of your concern?
Yeah.
Are we putting liability and responsibility on
The advisor.
individuals that won't be able to follow through with it all to no fault of their own? I know we want to keep them aware, and we want to try our best so that everybody knows who
Right.
I
to
think
help
it
or how
becomes
to help.
very
but-
similar to coaches. Coaches need to know who are on their teams and what their medical
Right.
needs are.
But this
And
is-
so, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Because we have after-school activities at Mountain View and Maple Shade. I understand the vision, and I compliment the vision.
Right.
I'm just worried about how you're gonna, this seems overwhelming to me, how you're gonna get, if a student never says anything to the advisor or coach, the advisor and coach will not know that student should have filled out this form. Am I correct?
Right, yeah,
You are
And
correct.
a parent could
However-
choose not to fill it out.
right. But we won't know that they chose not to fill it out.
Correct.
When
We
they have
won't
to
know
waive
until it happens.
filling out a form,
It says complete
Yes.
only for students with
Yeah.
foreign, what's the subject of complete? Parents complete only, school advisor?
Instructions are on the other side for parents.
But I mean, when we say complete only for students, who's completing this form?
The parent is completing the
The
form.
parent is,
Yes.
okay?
Similar to our forms now that we collect at the beginning of the year.
Right.
So then the nurse has
So every coach,
information on,
so every coach and advisor is gonna get a stack of these forms.
we're going to have
No,
First meeting-
actually, we do it different for sports. The nurse comes in August, and she clears all of the students for
Okay,
sports.
so I can see Kevin McGee kind of funneling that.
Right, they have this spreadsheet, and, she lets the coaches know if there's an EpiPen, if there's diabetic, it's not the same thing.
Okay, that's more of it, but, okay, how
We're
about?
just trying to find a way to make parents aware that the staff person may not know about the medical
Right.
because the nurse knows everything. It's in the
Has this been
record.
discussed with the leadership team at all?
We've started to discuss it, we
Yeah.
haven't gone through it thoroughly, this is,
I think I would advise the leadership team sit down with Mr. Bombard and kind of
Sure,
work this out.
that would be great.
Because I just am sitting here as a foreign principal saying, oh my God.
And
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's-
There was a lot in here.
It's extremely comprehensive. It's
It
very
is. It is.
impressive. I like that you have one form in here for if you want to have requests for food in the classroom.
that was
because-
just added.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's a nice thing. One thing I would like to ask, and I guess it's because I know in other school systems it's happened where you have one student who is so allergic to so many things that the other students in the classroom can't bring in really healthy snacks. Have we come across that? And if we have, what do we do for the other students in the class? Especially those having, not in this district, two other districts I know have had kids where they can't have wheat, they can't have egg, they can't have milk, they can't have peanuts, and it really just obliterates what the other kids have. We've never had that, right?
Well, so the 7 main allergies to food, like peanuts, peanut butter, eggs, stuff like that, wheat, no, but as long as they wash their hands with soap and water, wash their desks.
Okay.
The child that has a life-threatening allergy brings in their own food from home. They can buy lunch, but like snacks is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So it just depends on, like at Meadowbrook, that's where they start.
Okay.
So, parents are really nervous about that, and I don't blame them.
Okay.
So it kind of loosens as they go through,
All right, 'cause I've been
the
in
other
classrooms
where we
schools.
start building the skill set of wiping
Exactly.
desks down,
Right.
cleaning up after ourselves, washing our hands after snack, all of the above.
Right.
I only ask because I've been in classrooms where the kids have to wash their hands before with a wipe and throw it out before they enter the classroom, and they have to have their snacks approved by the teacher every single day. And again, not our district, but I just wasn't sure if we ever got to that point.
We do have letters that can be sent home to certain classrooms, just asking parents to avoid certain, like the dust from Cheez-Its
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But I don't know how often they're sending those out.
All right, that's good. So you know if there was a problem.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right.
Ms. Bone, all these forms, it's about, I counted about 4 to 5 of them. Were they sent home at the beginning of the year? The allergy information form,
So actually in the spring,
yeah?
every student that has a life-threatening allergy, we send home this allergy information form. And we send home, this form is new. We all liked this anaphylaxis emergency action plan.
Yeah.
1 page, the doctor signs it, the parent signs it. There's one form for just an EpiPen and one for, sometimes students have Benadryl.
So this process is already going on right now?
Yes, we just try to improve it.
Good for you.
It's similar to the lists that are provided to teachers at the beginning of the school year.
Right.
Also, we're
Check, yeah.
providing those to extracurricular advisors as well,
List of students with allergies?
or have individual health plans
We provide a list of students with individual
Yeah,
health
it's a lot of work.
to their teachers.
all the
We don't
No, to their
provide a
teachers.
list,
To their teachers.
because if you ever lost the list, then you have everybody's
Yeah.
name on it.
plans. We let each teacher know
Yes.
that is
they're in
responsible
their
for each
classroom.
Yes,
student
if
of
they're
their
in their
life-threatening
classroom.
allergy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then logistically, wash hands before and after eating. Do we provide an opportunity for students to actually do that?
Well, we're
Elementary
supposed to
classrooms.
educate and teach, but,
Elementary classrooms, you have sinks.
yeah.
I'm just saying though, if we're gonna ask as a student responsibility that they wash before and after eating, we should make sure we provide an opportunity that they actually can do it, especially in the elementary. That's really what I'm asking about.
Well, I think, again, it might be specific to the classroom. Not all classrooms can have a
Exactly.
student that has
Yeah.
a food allergy. And I'm only going based off my own
Okay.
experience.
Right.
And I will have to say, I know this sounds overwhelming, but I will say, having several kids and knowing friends, kids are so good. The students really look out for each other.
They do.
And I know by the high school, they're almost like, okay, I'm having a peanut butter sandwich today, is anyone else allergic before I eat it? I don't know, has that been your experience too, that people
Yeah.
are very aware of other people's allergies by high school? I mean, I know, and I like the idea that you're always looking for kids to self-advocate and know what they need by high school, kind of making them a little more independent of their allergy and what they have. I think hopefully it's working.
And I did give this to our school physician, Dr. Vera Clark, and she approved it.
Well, it's very thorough.
It is.
Very thorough.
Yeah.
It is pretty impressive, actually.
Are we voting on this? It's a
we vote
policy,
on
right?
this?
No, it's
For the most part,
procedure.
these are procedures, but we're looking for your
Right, we're looking for
support
your
on them.
opinion here,
Right.
you know.
Okay.
And I do agree, the co-curricular form, we just have to
Well,
figure out the best way to implement it.
that's on our preview. I just would recommend you sit down with the leadership team.
Yeah.
That's all, just
Okay.
adjust
Oh, yeah,
it.
that's great. Okay, I'm gonna.
So you're looking for us to possibly make some revisions in some of the more stringent procedures?
No.
No, you're not.
No.
No.
Okay.
I do
No, we just had
understand
questions.
about that co-curricular
With the
form,
leadership.
because
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
we're
that's all.
trying to make it better. So if we had a roster
Right.
of kids, the nurse could check, and maybe there's nobody that has a problem.
Yeah.
Which would
Maybe
be very
there's-
similar
yeah.
to what they do with sports.
Exactly.
But does something like Spartanum, for instance, have, like, I know Key Club, you have to sign up, and then I think there's some clubs there's a fee, some that
Right,
aren't.
yeah.
But like Spartanum, isn't that kind of more ebb and flowing? They're
It
in,
is.
they're out. It's, so I guess there's got to be how to figure things like that out,
Right.
I guess.
There should be a roster somewhere if students are claiming to be a member of
Right.
Key Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Key Club's different. 'Cause
Well, the organized clubs will be different.
Yeah, and Spartanum's only,
Right.
in March they have the production, so.
Right.
I
not a
worry about
year-long
the food
thing.
coming in and if they have an allergy.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, but it's not a year-long thing either,
No,
so it's
no,
just,
it's not.
get it done and,
Right, right.
okay.
And then quickly, I just wanted to let you know that there's a new AED law that is going into effect on July 1st, 2018. And it's quite extensive. We have a lot of it already in place. You got a copy of the Cardiac Emergency Response Plan. And I actually found this on the American Heart Association, and then I just, in red is how I tailored it to our district. So we do have some outdated AEDs. I bought one last year, brand new one, and two this year. So we have 2 schools left that need to get a new one, but I'm hoping in the fall we can get 2 more. And they're automatic. You just plug them in, turn them on, put the pads on, and it walks you through it, and you don't push any buttons or anything. It's amazing. But the new thing is that you have to have an emergency response team at each school, and all the nurses are instructors for CPR, but staff can volunteer to take it. Well, the emergency response team, they all have to be trained in CPR, AED, and if there's an emergency, then they come and help. So we're in the process of, I met with the leadership team May 3rd, and everybody's coming up with who's going to be on that team. We do have a list of everybody that's been trained so far, so they can actually take people that are already trained and then add more. I suggested maybe guidance, the nurse, an administrator.
The administrators in all the buildings are getting recertified. And then, just as Ms. Lombard is saying, we're going to have to do some recruiting to have more members of that team.
And then we need to practice, like a drill. Gordon and I met with the fire department a couple weeks ago, and I explained that to them. And so we have to, I developed this. This is going to go hang on the AED cabinet. So it's cardiac arrest emergency plan, and then on the other side, protocol for the use of an AED. So these will be on every AED and every health room and wherever else we think we need it, maybe every office. So anybody that's using them will be trained. And then you just have to have other things like if there's an event, you fill out the form. If you use your AED, it has to be reprogrammed, and we report that to our AED director, who is Dr. Gerald Beltran. And
Dr. Beltran?
do you know him?
Very well, I'm surprised.
Yeah, he's quite energetic, I'll tell you. He came to one of our staff meetings. Yeah, he's great. So, yes,
As an aside, have you ever heard of Kev's Foundation?
yes.
Because they will come in and they'll do, if you approach them and they can put you in the lineup to come in and do cardiac workups on the kids who sign up.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
the screenings.
yes,
Yes, cardiac screenings.
just thought I,
Yeah, and sometimes they'll donate.
and they give
an
these
AED.
too, yeah.
Yeah, so.
How expensive are those things?
So when we first started buying them, they were probably close to $3,000.
Well,
And we found out that the ones that we had were more for a hospital. So we were able to purchase, the last ones were just over $1,000. And then I talked to the fire department, and they got them on Amazon with the case. No, it's amazing how much cheaper they are. It comes with the case and everything else, and it was a total of
They're
$1,000.
delivered by drone?
Excuse me?
They're delivered by drone?
I don't know, maybe.
So, Mr. Lombard, is it your expectation by the start of school, 2018, 2019, that we'll have an emergency response team in each building?
If I get help from all the administrators, and I think so. I mean, I did ask them, do you think this is attainable? And they all said yes.
Okay,
all right.
just asking.
So we do
I
have a lot of people that have volunteered and
Right.
have been trained,
It's
so,
good to hear.
we could always come up with a team, and then as we get more people trained,
If you look at our emergency response plan now, you have a good number of staff members in each building that are already CPR and AED trained.
Right.
So
And
so
some are
those-
EpiPen trained,
Those
too.
individuals could be asked to join the emergency response team.
That's good.
They're not mandated to join, but
Right.
my guess is that we'll have staff members that would be willing to do that.
yes,
They've already
definitely.
gone through the training.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Thank
Nice
you.
work on all the
definitely.
life-threatening allergy. All right, so that actually led into the 5.1.2, which the cardiac emergency response protocol.
Yes, it did.
So at this point, we're going to move on to 5.1.3, which is certificate of attainment.
Okay, so we have Dr. Welsh and Dr. Flanagan here. We have two certificates of attainment that we need to make sure that the school committee is both aware and then approves of both of them. And in your packets, you have the checklist that we have to go through for each certificate. I'll have Dr. Welsh walk us through it.
Sure, so this particular district provides the opportunity for students who have not met all of the requirements for graduation, typically students who will be receiving services through the district until they're 22, to receive a certificate of attainment, meaning that they have fulfilled all of the requirements for graduation from East Long Meadow High School, including all of the course requirements, having passed all the course requirements, having taken the MCAS multiple times, may or may not have passed, have met an attendance requirement, and have completed 40 hours of community service. And so this year we have two students, both of whom, one attends a school outside of the district and one who is actually a senior here at East Long Meadow. And so I reviewed all of their transcripts. I looked at their MCAS scores, attendance, we verified that they've done the 40 hours of community service. The only issue is in each case, one of the students completed the alternative MCAS. The other student is still intending to continue to try to pass the MCAS and will get support in order to do that. That student's goal is, in fact, to receive a diploma from East Long Meadow High School. So you have the information in front of you, and again, I verified all of their documentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Did
you want
Yeah, well, we're obviously going to vote for this, but Dr. Swingen, this is the old graduation requirements. This does not reflect what you've changed over the years.
The list that you have,
Have
the checklist?
to? Yeah, and the dates on everything is a little out of
Okay.
date.
So review the check, so
So that was a document that I was given,
Right.
by, you know, obviously.
Because these things are just so formatted.
Yeah,
I think
Did
that
you
you
wanna
just
read
please
something?
update this for next year.
Yeah,
that's all.
We'll check with guidance.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, if you look at this, what I mean.
Yeah, and down by attendance requirement, well, not even, and also down by attendance requirement, it just has
Class
class of 2004.
Yeah.
And then we change the graduation to be like an old,
Yeah.
like how many,
The electives piece?
yeah, that's going to be,
Okay.
We were both obviously seeing
Yeah.
the same thing.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the stimulating for student A as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0. Okay, and then we have the...
Make a motion to
reading.
approve the certificate of attainment for student B as presented.
Okay, motion's made
I'll second.
and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0. We're good on
I
that.
thought
Thank you.
just a
Excellent.
quick question. If you take the alternative MCAS, does that count toward graduation?
There are two
There
different
is.
versions of the alternative MCAS. One is a proficiency
Yeah.
determination, and the other one is not. So it would depend upon which version of the alternative MCAS the student took.
Boo his MCAS.
Thank you.
Personal best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on, we have 5.1.4, request from MIAA to host lacrosse playoffs at ELHS.
Okay, so in your package, you have a memo from Mr. McGee, the athletic director, and looking at the possibility of hosting MIAA playoffs for lacrosse, both men's and women's lacrosse, June 14th and 15th. This would be if the top seed comes out of the Western Mass region. If the top seed actually comes out of Central Mass region, they'll probably host it in the at a Central Mass location. The request is that were we to host, that we would, obviously, the MIA would handle covering all costs to put the event on, but they're asking that we waive the field usage fee.
All right, so we've done this in the past before.
We've done it for soccer and we've done it for lacrosse last year.
And we've always waived the fees, correct?
Yeah. Generally, it's our booster clubs that run the concessions, so it's our booster clubs that make the money.
And have we had any issues with?
We have not had any issues.
Move to approve the request from MIAA to host lacrosse playoffs at ELHS, June 14th and 15th,
Okay, motions.
And waive the fee?
Waive the fee.
and waive the fee, as
Motion-
requested.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, and that still carries forward 4-1.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do
We
you
have
want
assistant.
to amend
Oh,
and bring up?
would you like to amend the agenda
Sure.
to move those?
Both of them?
Both.
I'll move that we move 6.1 and 6.2 to the next order of businesses, next orders of business.
Great. All right, motion made
I'll second. Okay.
and seconded by Beth. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, and that carries forward 5-0, so we'll
Okay,
amend the
so
agenda and move it up.
that moves up dress code to the next agenda item, so we'll invite the high school administration.
You didn't want to sit through our whole meeting and hear us?
I have a cold. I appreciate that.
Was that you sneezing and coughing that I heard? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, the cough is all mine.
Oh, okay. All right, so moving on to 6.1, proposed changes to the East Long Meadow High School dress code, and this is our second reading.
So you wanted to review this again. We didn't have any specific revisions that were proposed by the school committee. So we asked the high school to come back and look at any discussion items that you would like to focus in on. But I think first and foremost, if you look at their two goals as to what the dress code should achieve, that's probably where we should begin all discussion. That any dress code really is looking at promoting a safe learning environment where dress does not interfere with the successful and safe completion of learning activities, and that we're promoting an equitable and inclusive learning environment in which dress code does not negatively impact any group based on race, sex, gender, identity, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, or body type/size. Anything that we put in place in terms of rules and regulations regarding dress code, we should try to uphold those two goals that were listed at the top.
So,
So I'm gonna, you're gonna.
okay, I was going to say who would like to
I know.
start, I didn't know which side.
Well, you're gonna love me for this. I thought about this, and changing the dress code is a worthy, thing. We have to think about it. But when I went online to see, like, what other great dress codes are there out there? There's got to be some example of it. It just pounds you with that the women are being sexualized and the men should be looking at the girls and blah, 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 the girls and the boys and the girls, and it was just overwhelming. And I can't say as I necessarily, agree with that. I think that, so my thought was, when I really sat down, I think that our school system as a whole, the public's, the actual whole district, has a very sad dress code. I mean, we have nothing in it other than defer back to our schools. And I guess I feel that we should be, before we delve into this, kind of keep things status quo, but before we delve into it, that we as a committee should sit down and say, all right, our dress code needs to say, we want kids to show their individuality. We want them to be who they are. We want kids to be safe in school. We don't want there to be the harmful sayings and all of that. Maybe there should be something in our policy that states extenuating circumstances. You have a student who's going through something, and they've gone through the counselor and they've talked with the administration, like, yeah, we can make accommodations for that. I think that there's a lot that we could put into a really good comprehensive dress code that covers all of our schools. And from there, the schools, if they fit within that. I mean, the fingertip rule is hard. I'll admit it. I'll have trouble with my own kids, but maybe a 3-inch inseam. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to it, but I do feel that we have to, we don't need 2-inch straps maybe, but maybe we do in some schools. But I'm saying maybe just saying a strap and not giving a width to it. So I guess I feel, or maybe we don't need straps. I don't know what the answer is, but I guess after I thought about it, I really think that we need to fix our part before the schools can, because I think even Birchland sounds like that maybe they want to make some changes to theirs too. But I think it has to be, because it's such a hotbed issue and it's so highly contested. I think it just really needs to be thoughtful.
So you're talking about the policy at the district level?
Yes, because this is what we have. And I mean, this is the school districts, all it basically says is refer back to the schools, is really what it says. A little bit more.
It says a little bit more.
All right. The guidelines for the student dress shall be addressed in the student handbook of their respective schools. Parents have the right to determine how the student will dress, provided the attire is not destructive to school property, complies with the requirements for health and safety, and does not cause disorder or disruption. The administration is authorized to take action in instances where individual dress does not meet the stated requirements. This does not mean that the student, faculty, or parent groups may not recommend appropriate dress for schools or special occasions. It means that the student will not be prevented from attending school or school function or otherwise be discriminated against, so long as his or her dress and appearance meet the requirements set forth above. So I just feel like, okay, it's very nice, this is, we're gonna, but I just don't think it it really covers.
May I ask that, what you just read, is that the school committee regulations, correct? Because that's not the code of conduct.
No, that's not
This
from
is
the code of conduct.
This is the school committee policy regarding
Yeah.
dress code.
Okay.
But we don't
So if
really,
you were to look online in the policy manual, policy JICA is what gives you an overarching policy and guidance, which I think Ms. Marzian Boucher is saying is not providing specific guidance or enough specific
yeah,
guidance.
I mean, we have books on policies.
I'm sorry to interrupt, isn't the code of conduct what outlines for the district in terms of? the
Code of
policy?
conduct then separates it out further for
Right.
the schools.
Right.
The elementary schools have their dress code in the handbooks, and the code of conduct is generally where you're going to find not only disciplinary regulations, but you will also find specifically for the high school and the middle school, you'll find attendance regulation and dress code, among other things.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be difficult, and maybe hats might be a big part of it. Like, sure, hats, and then it goes underneath where each principal determines what is acceptable in their school or in their classrooms, right? But I just feel that what we have is not dictating what's out there. You know what I mean? Like what's, even how we address a student. I mean, at what point, like, do we feel as comfortable? I mean, you're not going to point out a child in a school that isn't dressed appropriately. You might find a moment to say to them, hey, you know, we need to fix this, or you might send them an email, or you might, I'm not saying to point out a kid. You know, I think that you need to keep it very low-key, very respectful.
We do that, and that's
And I'm sure you do, but I'm saying if we're not saying that this is what we're gonna do, people can perceive it as, I don't know, I just think that we need to think, and that's just my thought, we should put a more thoughtful approach to it, and then come back and, you know, kind of keep it the way it is, and then like this year, we'll come up with something, we'll talk to you, and we'll talk to Dr. Allen, and we'll talk to, you know, the elementary school teachers, and see how is it we can come up with a baseline, and then move on from there. I guess it's bigger
I
than.
totally understand. I just want to say that this was a very thoughtful process.
I can tell
We
it
vetted it
was.
through our school council. We also looked at the ACLU guidelines. We looked at several schools across the nation so that we would find something that, you know, kind of fit, you know, what we were after, that fit those goals that Gordon had just recommended. So I guess I'm just a little confused as to what that would mean in terms of a more thoughtful approach to.
I don't know, and I'm not saying you didn't put in a thoughtful approach. I don't feel that way, but like when you go and you say that fabric covering all private parts must be see-through, and everybody's definition of private parts is different, but Merriam-Webster's is very well defined. It is the outward stuff that's out there. So, and that the clothing has to cover the underwear, or
I thought you guys had talked about, I thought the whole idea of you going for a second reading was to have that conversation and provide us some feedback as to what specifically you'd like us to change or reconsider. So that's where I'm confused.
Well, I guess it's just there's more to it. I don't know. I could be way off. Anybody else? I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm saying that I think that we, as a district, need to have something better. And if we're going to come up with something better, why are we changing this? That you have started the conversation. Okay. Let me put it to you that way. And that I think that we're faulty in our approach, not your approach.
Okay.
All right?
I think the policy here is designed to allow the schools at the various age ranges to set a dress code that's appropriate for those age ranges.
Right.
We haven't had a full-blown hour-long discussion as a leadership team, but we did have
I contacted all the
about a
principals.
half hour at the leadership team meeting on dress code, and I think you'll find that there are differing opinions, especially as you look at the different age ranges for each building. So I think it may be not impossible, but it may be challenging to provide both the freedom to have something that's appropriate for age ranges, while also being so specific that, you know, we're providing.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not gonna be easy. I'm aware of that, and maybe I'm way off base, but
I just think that trying to capture everything in a policy with the way things are constantly changing, once we implement something, we'll be reviewing it again in the following year. That's how difficult, this is really difficult, because I don't think the policy can't get so specific as to dictate what, every building isn't going to look the same because you've got the age differences.
No, I know that.
And trying to capture that in a policy, I'm not sure is possible. I'm really not, because of the...
No,
Would
but
you like
like
us to
say,
take this to a leadership team meeting and see what we would recommend for the overarching policy?
Mr. Smith, I spoke to each of the principals today
Okay.
and got great feedback. All of them said it's a great, they agree with all the pieces. We had one principal did give me some feedback, and the only feedback that I received was the part that says clothing must cover undergarments. She requested that we also put private parts, because I don't want to get too crude with it, but not everybody necessarily will wear undergarments. And the other piece that was asked just to just think about is that the teacher discretion piece, so that when this is just one member of leadership, everybody else was aligned to our thoughts on this, was that either we allow it, the hats, or we don't, but the teacher discretion at her school might be an issue.
Right.
And I think that's where,
Yeah,
that's where it is.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with the policy. I understand that's the need to look
But
further
you-
at our policy.
I know, but when you look at clothing must have fabric in the front and back, okay, that's great. I have a problem with clothing must cover undergarments, and that it must be, where is it here? Fabric covering all private parts must not be see-through. You are not giving, there is no, our students, there will be a savvy enough child out there who will come into our school district, who is going to be dressed to this code, and you're gonna go, oi, just like that. Because they're gonna be compliant, but you're gonna see more than you really should be gonna see, and that is gonna be a problem. And I just don't know, and like I said, I
But
don't
that's-
think the fingertip rule is good.
Right, but you're just
But should there
exchanging
be
one
a
for the
3-inch
other.
inseam?
No, you're just going to
Something-
exchange one for the other. One.
That's fine. I mean, you guys can do what you want. I think that we should stop, we should think about it, we should think about our approach, think about what it is we want, think about the whole atmosphere that's out there.
And that's fine, and I think they kind of are separate things, but they're not. I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think she's done a great job on this. You're never going to find an ideal situation.
No.
You're never going to come up with the ideal.
So we're gonna have no length on pants, shorts, or skirts.
As
No
long as-
length at all.
I think length almost, it's going to look different on,
I mean, you
Whether
gotta be,
you-
you
whether
have
you
to be
say finger
respectful of a student walking up the stairs and what the student at the bottom step is gonna see. And I'm not saying this to sound prudish, but honest Pete, you think about it. You're putting any student walking up those stairs at a disadvantage. Give it a 1 inch, a 2 inch, 3 inch. I'm not asking for them to wear pants. I'm not even asking them fingertip, I get it. But I'm saying I feel that that definitely is missing in this policy. But I
So
also.
you want us to give an actual length?
Well, I
What's
don't know.
appropriate? That's what
That's
I
just
said.
it. I don't.
We all
That's what I
struggle
said,
with.
because I said last
But it's
week, and I
better
will
than
say it again.
fingertip.
You go to any clothing store,
Yeah.
you go to Old Navy, you can only buy a 3-inch or 5-inch length.
3
And-
inches
and
is
how-
fine, but at least it's not 1
But you're
inch.
targeting females once again, and that is really
And the hats is
something we're
targeting
trying
the
to
boys.
avoid.
If you really think about
Well,
it.
girls wear hats as
They
well.
do, but not to the extent that the guys do.
Yeah.
so Ms. Marhefka, I know you want to.
Just with all due respect, in the winter, I had more problems with the girls with the winter hats on. I mean, it just, and they look great. They all say Spartans or.
Yeah.
Even more referrals.
That's right.
More referrals.
Well, they all say the cap.
Dress
And,
code
I just,
referrals.
and then I guess, I mean, if we started going down measurements, I would appreciate some guidance on how I'm supposed to.
So,
Am I supposed to walk around with
No.
the
Check
can
artist?
we
But I don't
send
think
the
it's ever
policy?
been done, so I'm not asking for us
Hold
to
on,
do
Beth.
this at this point. I don't think anybody's ever come out with a
Beth.
tape measure.
Beth,
I mean, come on.
Can we can have the policy reviewed by the policy subcommittee, but I think for now, and
It's the overarching.
That one,
This
yes.
is,
start.
seems to be ready to go moderately for next year and always subject to change the following year.
Right.
So I'm just gonna throw it out there because this is how I feel. I'm gonna move that we accept the dress code as presented, except we move hats from the allowed part to the not allowed part.
But now you need to add mine. I don't like the hoodie idea. I don't like the hoodie.
That, well, I'm
Are you,
I'm
can you
opposed
explain
to-
that? Because students
Yeah.
can wear a hoodie and not put the hood
Oh,
up.
and that's what I mean.
Okay,
having
so
the
now
hood
we're gonna
over.
parse it even further with,
But you
you
have
can wear a
too, and
hoodie, you
hoodies
just-
must be allowed, must allow the student face and ears to be
so
visible.
how do you
to
wear a
staff.
hoodie if you have to have your face and your
You
ears?
just don't put the hood up.
Well, right, is my point. I
Right,
mean,
that's what I meant.
So they can't wear the hood, you're saying now?
You can't, it can't obstruct your
Right.
face or ears. How can you physically wear a
So
hoodie
that's
without
enforceable,
showing your?
right?
And maybe it's the wording that you need to change,
No, I think
but-
it's fine, because, I
Right.
mean, even if they're cold and you put it behind your ears, it's not in front of your face. It's fine, I'm okay with that. I'm just saying the hats, I would like to move down to the not allowed. So I've made a motion. If we want to talk about it, we can. If we don't want to.
So you don't want hats, but you're okay with a hood on?
Behind the ears and
Behind
face
the
exposed.
ears and faces. So it's basically just on, it's just bunched up. It's not really on their heads.
This
See what
this
I'm
is what's
saying?
presented. Well, I'm not going to parse every
Right.
single line. I'm going to leave it up to the
Right.
administration to do with what we have, but to follow what we have like we are all agreeing to. My proposal is on the table, that we approve it and just move the hats down to not allowed. That's been moved. Hasn't been seconded.
I was just gonna say, do I have a second on that?
I'll
I don't
second.
know if the chair can second.
I know, I didn't, I'm saying, can I have a second on it? I was asking for a second, so
So
motion
can I just, for
made.
clarification, what will be the consequences for students, in your view, should be the consequences for students who
It's
disobey
not up to
this
us.
rule?
I think it's just allowed or not, so however you enforce it, that's.
Okay, okay.
But it should be enforced, and I think did you make the point, somebody made, or Gordon made, or Mr. Schmidt, it has to be enforced, and we can't do, some can allow it, some can't allow it. Oh, it was yours, because it came from another administrator, and I agree with that, because how do you say, well, the teacher next door lets me wear it, how come you don't?
But it
let me
happens
wear it?
now, right now.
But it shouldn't happen now,
But
because
it
it's not
does.
allowed. If we allow it, which we're allowing, we're allowing teachers to not follow the rule, which is kind of, I don't
And I
understand
totally
that
get what
part.
you're saying. I just want to emphasize, our whole thought process to this whole thing always focused on those two goals. And for us, and I think I can speak for the rest of administrators, is that we are focused on teaching and learning. And for us, the hat issue has really no bearing in terms of that conversation. I went to a graduation at a Catholic university this weekend, and men were wearing hats inside for a graduation. I'm not saying I
Why'd
agree
you
with it.
notice that, though?
Because this is fresh in our head. And let me just say this. If I were teaching classroom, I would say, I would prefer you not to wear the hat. But I feel that teachers have different feelings on that, because some teachers don't want to have, it's not because they're not following the rules to be a jerk.
Well-
It's because that's not the hill they want to die on, and they want to just be able to continue to teach and learn.
But if there's zero tolerance, it's not going to happen, it's not going to be a problem for the teachers. If it's allowed for some and not allowed for others, it becomes a problem for other teachers.
I get your-
I've talked to parents since the last meeting. Overwhelmingly, I shouldn't say overwhelmingly, they're either we don't want hats or I don't care. Well, I don't care, we can fulfill with no hats, right? So I'm proposing no hats. Motion's on it, been made and seconded.
And seconded. Any further discussion on that?
For just the hat comment, or?
Approving the dress code as proposed.
I'd like a 3-inch inseam minimum on pants. It's not a lot.
I'm just going to say that I think that we should either accept what is proposed for us by
Right.
the high school administration or not. I know you're making an amendment, Mr. Thompson, but that's, I think we're going to have,
We could go on talking about this
I
for the
know.
next 3 months.
Motion made and
Motion on the floor.
seconded, yeah.
Motion's been on the
Well,
floor.
let's just vote.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
For,
please say.
I'm sorry, is this for the amendment?
Yes, for the proposal that Mr. Thompson made.
The motion that Greg made.
Accepting the proposal with the
Okay,
one
I'll
amendment
say
where
aye.
hats are not allowed.
Okay. All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
All right, so that doesn't carry forward 2-3. So right now,
All right, I'll try it.
right now it still stands as is, because we didn't accept how Greg had suggested.
I move to approve the E ELHS dress code as presented.
All right, do I have a second on that? Wow.
Okay,
I'll try a motion.
you can try it.
In the trying to balance the philosophy
Right.
and the balance of time. I propose that this be brought back to the leadership team, and that we have a formal dress code from pre-K through 12,
I'll second
presented
that.
to us. But I think we have to vote on it on the first reading, because they gotta get their handbooks out and the publicity out before the start of school. in
You're
September.
proposing the same dress code K through 12?
Or updated K through 12?
I'd like
you
to
mean?
see what everybody says pre-K through 12. If Meadowbrook is a different dress code than the high school, fine. And I guess,
Are you looking for us to start with the overarching policies or just go right to the...
That'll take too
it'll
long.
take too long. That overarching policy is fine, so what you read out loud makes sense, or what Beth read out loud. I'm just saying, I'd like to hear what the leadership team has to say, and that we vote on it on June 3rd, 4th, whatever it is.
Here.
Pardon me?
Day when we're all here.
No, we're here the 17th.
We all come back for our
We're here on
goals.
the 18th.
Yeah.
Great, we could do it then, so
That's like
people
our
wouldn't have to
last
make
one of
another
the-
That's
trip.
our last meeting,
When?
the 18th, or whenever.
When does it have to be approved by, though? Is there a print deadline?
You need to know
Print
before
deadline's
school's
in
out.
July.
Before school, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, so we
print
could do it-
deadline
we could do it on the
for
18th.
code of
Well, but
conduct is July.
are we sure we're going to all agree on the 18th to approve
I
a
mean, we
policy?
can always make an amendment in September, and it would be a lovely way to send out to all the parents and do the email and do the Connect Ed
Well,
and
I'd say
say,
you haven't
we
even
had a
finished your
change.
motion.
Why don't we all read it and learn what it is? And it could be that hats are okay.
It could be.
Yeah.
But I think we have to make a decision so the administration can publicize it properly in each of the
Right.
buildings before the first day of school.
And not come back in September
I
going,
think we can- I think we can't then do an amendment. I
no,
don't think we can do that.
we can't. We just have to be ready to vote on the 18th. That's the danger of this.
But obviously, it's something that we never not agree, we never don't second, we never do this. So it is something we shouldn't be
Because
rushing.
this is very difficult.
It is.
I mean, as Mr. Thompson talked to some parents, through my travels in different places, I talked to a number of students, and I can tell you right now, right down the
It is.
middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no big deal, Mr. Fitzgerald, so what, let them wear hats.
Right.
No, I don't like,
Yeah.
it was so right down the middle. No
Yeah,
matter what we do, it's
But
gonna be
Rich,
right.
no, but Rich, is there anybody who says, yes, we have to have hats?
No,
though?
I didn't hear-
So that's what I'm saying. So if the constituency is, no, we don't want hats, or I really don't care, then are we listening to our constituency and just saying, yeah, hats? This doesn't
I don't
line up
think
for
you're,
me.
I don't think you're gonna get a clear cut, one way or another.
It's
because-
never 100%,
But I don't think, for a lot of people,
I know, yes.
I'm sorry, Dr. Welch.
I know
Yes.
Dr. Welch wants to interfere with something.
I just wanted to say that I was at the leadership team meeting where the whole dress code issue was addressed, and the high school kind of made a presentation, and I heard the discussion of the collective leadership team, and I found that our discussion was more focused on what the superintendent read. The discussion was not about a hat. The discussion was about inclusion and making students feel welcome and relationships in the school setting and promoting collegiality in the classroom. And the news just keeps reminding us of how important that is.
Right.
And so I would just only hope that whatever the decision that's made would take into account the spirit of the discussion. And the spirit of the discussion was about promoting community in one of the buildings in town. This is only one person's thought. I am a member of the community. I do vote. And I would only say that I would just encourage folks to listen to what the leadership team has already said. And it's not about a hat.
Well, but it is about a hat, because we're either allowing hats or we're not allowing it. And I'm okay with the rest of the policy minus the hat. So that's the part, and I agree with you full-heartedly, it's what it's all about, but it's
No, that's your
specifics to the
choice.
policy.
That's your choice,
Yeah.
but I don't think that was how it was originally proposed.
No,
Right.
I understand.
The difficult part for me, and I don't mean to speak for the high school administration, but my sense is, especially looking at you, Mr. Page, you philosophically do not see any reason why a student should not be able to wear a hat at school. We had that discussion 2 weeks ago.
That's correct.
And that's what I'm wrestling with, because I believe that they should not wear a hat, but I'm listening to the high school administration is saying,
It's not worth the
It's not,
argument.
it's not, there's bigger battles out
teacher
there.
and
It's
learner.
not an argument every day if it's zero tolerance. This is the whole point of it all, though, and I'm having trouble wrapping my head around that
Well,
we're giving
Right.
into those that are breaking the rule because it's easier to give into them that break the rule.
Well, I think the other half of it is consistency, that no matter what we end up doing, it's enforced across the board, across the realm, and I think that's
I have a
hard.
bigger problem with the lower half than I do the upper half. You know, because I
But
want to
again,
protect all the kids.
You know what, we could spend
I
a
don't
month,
know.
we
Right,
could spend a
yes,
month
we're gonna
talking
do
about
this.
this. We could, and we're
We're
never,
not ready to vote on this.
well, no, but we're never gonna come to a consensus where everybody's
That's, and
happy.
we're never.
By
never
not
gonna
voting
come to a
on it, we were
consensus.
saying status quo. By not voting on it, we're saying
Correct.
status
Just
quo.
no hats, and can we decide to follow the rule of no hats then? If we're
Well,
not,
it
we're
stays the
staying
way it
status
is,
quo.
but then maybe we really need to delve into this.
You can
This
delve
year
into, you can
coming
delve
up.
into
You have a
that.
motion on the floor.
Right, well.
What was your motion?
But
Finish.
I feel so much
Finish.
emotion, as I said, I'd like to hear from the leadership team, pre-K through 12, on how they feel about the dress code.
So what are we doing? Are we rejecting this, or, because this is a second reading?
Right.
Somebody can make a motion to, we already made a motion.
We already made-
As
and it
is.
didn't-
It's already been rejected.
It's already been rejected, because, and, I mean, I don't know where we're going
Yeah,
from
you gotta
here.
come back with something else, or we stay status quo. I think you're right, Rich, that's it.
Yeah,
Or we table it, we stay status quo, but we think about it over this year, and next year we come back in March, we have the discussion, and then we change the whole shebang to say what you have here, but maybe just,
I mean,
The only-
I want to say one thing that,
You know.
and I noticed, this is the third time I'm referring to my former career. Okay, if we decide to keep status quo, remember that we've done our job. It's up to them how they enforce it.
Right.
So if they decide to enforce it in their own creative way, that's nothing to do with us.
No,
I understand
it's
that.
totally honest.
And if they decide to enforce this status, this new, the old policy, rather than this new one they brought up, in their own way,
What do you mean, selectively enforce it? Is that what-
I'm not saying it. They as administrators will now take the status quo as we've kept it, and they're going to enforce it the way they deem necessary. That's all I'm saying. Think about that. That's all I'm
Well, no,
saying.
I don't understand fully what you're saying. They
Well,
can not,
if Richard Ventura was sitting in Dr. Flanagan's seat
Yeah.
right now, I'd probably be frustrated as all can be. I've explained to the school committee how important this is to us. We've gone through a very thoughtful process, and 5 people are now telling us that this is not what's well for our school building. And we're telling them this is well for our school building. So if we say status quo, then I feel they have the right, which we all know, to creatively administer the status quo.
I just want to say, you asked your recommendations, the leadership. I don't think you're going to get much different. What I'm saying is, and that's all well and good.
May I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
I think what you're going to get, because I was thinking about, since the task would become mine, you're going to start with 5 handbooks, basically. So Birchland would come with theirs, and they probably would look to revise some of that. High school would look to revise their portion in the code of conduct, and the 3 elementaries would either stay status quo with what they have because they have not offered changes, or they would take part in the discussion, which they did in this past leadership team meeting. And the feedback that Dr. Flanagan received started in that leadership team meeting, because I know the person to whom she's referring, in terms of either make it no hats or hats. Don't put it on the teachers.
I'm almost liking that idea because I feel like it'll create some consistency because like is Birchland, I haven't read theirs in a while, but is it inclusive? Has the wording been changed to not include like she shouldn't wear this?
No,
I can tell you
So-
that Dr. Allen asked if he could adopt the,
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, so maybe it makes sense to take a look at all, like K through 12, to make sure that we're making the right changes so there's consistency and it's established throughout the whole district.
And Mr. Martin reiterated the point that we were trying to illustrate. Like when you're trying to vet out a 16-year-old young lady's
Right.
shorts, and he made a great point to us, imagine if they're 11.
Right.
Like having that same conversation,
Right.
you know?
all right.
Aside from the hats, aside from the hats, so Beth, your missing piece is the length of the girls.
I don't think that fingertip length is fair. Okay, it never has been and it never will be. I will absolutely agree with you there. I think that saying to a student, you have to have a 5-inch inseam is going to stylishly destroy multiple students in the school. And I get that, I understand that. But I feel like there's gotta be something, and I was just.
What is that something? 'Cause that's what I want to help us get to where you think it needs to be.
Without getting like really Daisy Dupey,
Right.
I mean, is 3 inch like fair?
I know, but at the same point, we
I
can't.
don't know
Yeah.
what's fair, I
But-
don't
But then
know.
we need to help them
School
come up with
uniforms.
something.
Start that rumor.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, I
Make it a
don't
lot
know.
easier for all of us going shopping for our kids.
it'd be much easier. You don't have a red shirt,
Yeah.
go home.
Red,
Yeah, there you go.
white.
Let's
We
not-
got options, we give them
Well,
options.
we don't want to do
Red, gray, white.
But again, we could continue this conversation
Right.
for the next
Well, I-
month and not even
I know
accomplish
that, but I
anything.
feel like without having, and forget about even the skirt length, I understand that. And I understand we don't want to objectify and single out one group of individuals. But at the same time, we have to protect all the individuals within the school. And we don't need somebody thinking someone's looking the wrong way because they just turned their head by mistake. And I won't say it, but you know the example I used, and it happens. And so it's like,
So.
I am not the God, so I don't know what the right answer is, and
Right.
I know that.
And we don't know the right answer.
No, that's the problem.
So at this point, did you want to make a motion, or we just,
I'm just
What do we
direct,
do?
I was just going to direct the superintendent
Yeah.
to meet with the leadership team on this issue, come back to us in pre-K through 12 proposal.
Okay.
Do we want to do, I mean, I know that doesn't help them for this year. We want to make it a thoughtful approach and have it ready for next year instead of rushing something.
I don't think
in
we're
1
rushing this,
month.
Beth. We have been talking about the dress code since I have started my tenure 7 years ago as principal.
I know, but I just heard about this 2 weeks ago. You understand? So
I
for me,
understand.
I feel like my thought process
So you all need to do your homework
is
on it.
rushed. Yeah, and it's hard to do the homework on it because there's not a lot of good stuff out there. I understand.
We tried to do the
what you're
homework
going
for
with.
you so that you'd have something to kind of,
I know that, but
start with.
it's, I don't
So
know.
what are we looking for them to come back with? A different policy?
I would say, I'd like to.
I don't know how
consistency.
consistent you can
Not gonna
Your grade
be.
spans are so different
in
and your needs are insufficient.
grades
Yeah.
pre-K through 5
Yeah.
versus 6 through 8, and then
Could be, yeah.
9 through 12.
Could be 6 through 12. Did someone comment and Dr. Allen
Yeah,
like
he's on board with this.
Yeah.
He wants to adopt
So
this.
is there any opportunity to maybe try out the suggested policy, dress code rather, and then recircle it back to it after a year of implementing to see if there were major issues that we're assuming are going to arise? And then it can be relooked at then?
you could pilot it?
I can see a pilot. You know, it can't hurt to try, because I'll go back to what I keep saying, we're never gonna agree on something.
And I think it's hard because we are trying to educate the students in this district, and they all come from different families who have different value systems, and we need to honor everybody's differences, right?
Right.
So it's understandable how there's so
Well,
much
but we also put
dissension.
restrictions on
Conversation.
individual preferences too, in terms of what they can wear and what they put on as logos that they can wear at their houses, they can't wear here. So we can put restrictions on, and that's the whole point of a policy.
And, I mean, we put restrictions on them for the food they can bring in, and we put restrictions on them for how they're supposed to behave in class, and we put all kinds of restrictions on these kids. And they follow the restrictions when they're asked to follow them. They do follow them. And so I feel, just because this is more personal about your personal being, it's a little more difficult to maybe expect them to. But if expectations are set, they'll do it. I'm in a school, it's an elementary school, those kids, it's -3 out. I'm like, thinking in my head, keep your hat on till you get in the school. They're whipping their hats off because I don't know what they fear down the hall, there's no one there, but the hats come off. And they're, so it's not about that. It's about understanding that there's a rule and following it, because in life there's rules wherever you are. And so, sure, we could try to pilot it, but of course everyone's going to say it's wonderful, because it's going to be wonderful. No one's going to complain that they're allowed to wear hats. it's not gonna, I mean, a pilot isn't gonna, it's gonna come back and it's gonna come back that it was wonderful. And I don't, maybe it is, it might be the best thing in the world, but
So why don't you all write the policy then? And seriously, I'm not trying to be
well, that's kind of what I wasn't
snide, but like,
trying.
I'm not, we've done a lot of research. We're trying to follow some philosophical goals that we believe in as a team. And society is also telling us that we need to start following some of these goals as well. And we put together a very thoughtful, comprehensive, research-based plan for you. If you don't like it, simply, I really, this is where I'm at right now, because we could come back with leadership feedback, and I'm going to tell you right now, Dr. Allen is going to say this works. So it makes sense to me that you write the policy and let us know what you want to do.
Well, that's what I started this conversation off with, that we start from the top down, and that we have to come up with something, take what they've done, make sure it's part of, like, overreaching, and then the schools will follow, they'll just fall into it. And if the hats, and that's a discussion we will have to have about the hats, and do the research on that. They've done some of it, and then when it comes to the individual stuff, then that's more difficult. I get that.
I think it's going to be an overwhelming task. I really do. Just because of how specific are you going to make this policy? That's my concern. A policy should be overarching, and something like this, an overarching policy, and let the schools govern within it, which is
We
what's
have
happening now.
far more detailed policies for far less.
Oh, I agree with that, but when you talk about dress codes, it's going to be difficult.
Well, I
It's not
know
going to
that,
be
and
easy,
that's why I don't
because you're
want
going to start
someone-
talking about personal opinions, and you can't do that.
I mean, you gotta think about this policy, and is there gonna be a parent that's offended by this policy? And that's what I'm saying.
Well, you're never going to please 100%
You're not gonna please
of the people
everybody.
100
I
times.
mean, you don't need the TV crews coming and saying, oh, this was said wrong. I just think it's bigger than I thought when I really went to do the research myself.
And like, Beth, I want to acknowledge, it's been tough for us
I
too.
know that,
It's-
I
mean,
know.
it's not an easy subject.
We're going to get into this, and
It's a question. What are we, I mean, I know the time we've spent over the last few years working on this. My question is, what are we hoping to, what new information are we hoping to find from the additional research? Like, is there an achievement metric that we've missed in our research that shows that hats versus no hats produces this better learning or that better learning? Like, are we just looking at
Wait,
how many?
hats produce better
Well,
learning?
no, I guess I keep hearing like we need to do more research, and I just don't know what that.
I'm not looking for research. I have an opinion on something, and that's it. We're gonna go one way or we don't. It's nothing personal, so you don't need to come back with anything for me. I'm okay with the policy minus the hat, so.
I'd like to know what the other schools are doing, because personally, I mean, are they allowed to wear, not allowed to wear hats in Birchland, and when they come to ninth grade, they can wear hats in the high school? I don't know if that feels comfortable to me as a school committee member.
Right now, most policies do not allow hats.
Okay.
Do they let them wear hats in person still?
Not to my knowledge.
And that'd be more, I mean, I'm more for consistency. If the 6 through
Well, I
12
think-
comes in and
yeah.
says, we want, now, if Dr. Allen comes in with Dr. Flagg and says, listen, we like this policy,
yeah,
I'd be more open to it.
definitely.
So, okay, so you would like us to, as a leadership team, to meet?
Unless we can make a decision now, I mean, we can't go on much longer.
No, we
Let's
can't.
make a decision right now, or we're gonna have an alternative.
But can't-
We can't keep doing
Are
this.
you looking for consistency across the grade levels, like K through 12?
Don't know if that's possible.
Because our
Yeah.
cell phone policy is also very different.
Right.
Right.
There has to be that differentiating between grade levels.
Right.
I guess for me, 6 through 12 would make sense.
But at Birchland, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that went to Birchland,
Never allowed.
they're not allowed at all.
High school, we have hallways.
The challenge there too, the dress code is, you're talking about sixth graders who are 11 and 12 years of age, and you're looking for a policy around dress that governs then 11-year-olds up through 18-year-olds.
Yeah, there's a difference.
It's a challenge
There's a
to
difference.
have one policy fit all.
That's why we can't get a policy that's going to fit all.
Well, go back to Mr. Thompson's point. We all have an opinion, and let's vote and get this over with.
We tried.
Well, let's make the motion again. Listen, I mean, I'm just saying, if we don't allow for it, at least let them leave here with some kind of an answer. Well, your mind's made up, correct?
Yeah.
You know what you feel? I don't know. I mean, if we're not going to get anything from the leadership team, then
We can certainly provide feedback, I
Yeah,
wasn't
but-
saying that, I'm just saying that I don't know that you can have one policy fits all.
I don't think there's
I think
any way we can
feedback-
do that.
that we will come back with will probably be still around grade spans.
And I can see it being specifically around middle school and high school. Just my opinion.
This is quite the conundrum.
I know, it is.
Over dress code, who would have thought?
Well, it is a hot
Over a hat.
I'm about.
Well, I got closer without the hat,
That's-
than I got
that's
closer
about-
with the hat, I'm just saying. You got 2 votes on that.
Well, then try a motion. But, I mean, try something. I don't know.
I already tried my
already
motion.
tried the motion.
You can try it again. If you can word it a little bit differently and try it again.
And I just ask that you focus on those goals. I know I keep going back
I
to
know.
them, but.
I know.
We agree with the goals, Gina.
We agree, we
Okay.
definitely agree with the goals.
It's just it's how you get there, that's all.
It's-
And different,
Yeah.
we can be different, it's fine. We have
It's fine,
different-
yes, but the goals,
And our responsibility as a school committee too is to represent the community and be the liaison for them. So you can come and present to us with an idea, but we can turn around and say, well, that's not what the community wants. That's not what they want to see in their schools. And I think we're expressing that, we have all gone out to ask some of our friends and families, say, well, what do you think of this hat? And everyone's
But
like,
aren't your friends all in a certain demographic? I mean, have you really surveyed the community?
I wouldn't say the community, but, Greg would say it's a very traditional community or conservative
I've lived
community.
here since 1959, I
but
think
it's
I know
rapidly
that.
changing.
But,
Rapidly
And I'm not looking to debate that, I'm
Well,
just
I know there's somebody who I was asking people at work, and I asked people in the community, and I asked them, it was the same thing. It was no, not at all, or they didn't care. But I did ask one parent who has a student in Long Meadow, she's like, oh God, that was the worst thing. My kid wore that hat every single solitary day. It stunk. I could not get that hat off my kid. She's like, I wish they didn't have that policy. And I looked at her, and in the back of my mind, I thought to myself, well, you could have just taken it off when you left the house. But so I was really surprised, but then other people, parents love it over there. And then other parents, like, they hate it. So, again,
it's 50/50.
You're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get there.
You're gonna have people that love it, people that hate it.
Well, so class rank.
No, I think we have to give it something. No, I think we have to.
We got nothing, we're out of, the road has ended. Ally, what do you have for us?
About this?
Yes, the hats.
Only if you want to. What do you think your dad said to me, first of all? Do you know what your dad said to me? What are his thoughts on it?
I have no idea what
Go
my
ahead.
dad said.
I talked
But, I mean, the hats, I don't wear hats, so I don't really care about that. But for me, the most important thing is like the shorts and the stuff for like next year, because I know that like this year and last year, like it's so hard to find shorts that are even the same length as another store. Like you can go in one store and they're short, you can go in another store, they're like 1 inch shorter, or like 1 inch like longer, but nobody measures their shorts. Like you just put them on, if they feel comfortable to you, you walk out of the house wearing them. Like I know that me and my friends, like, we don't want to look like bad. Like we wouldn't wear anything that's like way too short, because like why
That's
would we?
not how
Like
we're
that's
right.
not
Yeah.
what we think of. Like, oh, like let's just see how far we can push this policy. Like we just wear like what feels good for us,
And what you
like
can
what is
find
going to
in
be
the stores.
comfortable for the whole long day that we're here. Like the past couple of days, like I've worn like dresses that may not be like fingertip length, because I just know I'm going to be hot sitting in class, like dying, and like I can't find shorts that are fingertip length, or even like, I mean, I don't know what an inseam is, but I like wouldn't really know where to measure that, because
Neither would I, Ally.
so I mean, like I just get stuff that feels good for me, and I assume that's what other people do. I mean, I don't really know, but it's just my opinion.
that was a good opinion.
It was, and I'm sure every high school across the country struggles with this the minute March hits.
It's true.
Go ahead. What do you got?
It's
Madam Chair,
it's
moving on, we're
it's-
moving on.
Well, I don't.
What are you gonna
Well, it's gonna come back again, and we're gonna have to vote on it. So if you're gonna come back,
But I'm not sure what's even
Right,
going to
I know.
change. That's the problem. I'm really concerned about what's going to change. In 2 weeks, how much more research can be done?
No more
I'm
research.
just asking for the leadership, to hear what the leadership team has
Okay.
to say.
Right.
Well-
And if it's 6 through 12, or 9 through 12, or 6 through 8, I mean, I don't care how the leadership team presents it. I just want to see what the leadership team says about the dress code. That's all that's what I'm asking, that's all.
Okay.
However they want to do it, they want to do it.
When would
As
you-
Dr. Flanagan said, the cell phone policy is different from middle school to the
Right.
high school.
And things like assessment and homework policies are different from every classroom to every classroom, from
Right.
teacher to teacher, and we're focused on the consistency of the hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
But let's not minimize it though, because it's an important issue to a lot of people. So let's not get hung up on the hat, just not allow hats or allow hats. But it is a discussion that people want to talk about, and obviously people are passionate about it at this table. So it's worth the discussion here.
The only
Well, the
thing
hat
is,
for you and then for Beth, the short.
Because clearly the no hat policy got more votes than the hat policy. So, I mean, we're making progress at least with that. And I know it's a minor issue. It's ridiculous that we're talking hours about hats.
Right.
I agree with that.
Right.
I'll agree with you.
I just mean
But it-
relative to
It is important to a lot of people though, because it shows respect, and that's still important to some people, I guess.
It would be good though in the future for us when we have something, I guess maybe you didn't think it was gonna be a hotbed issue, but like,
Oh, I did.
we kinda knew that the GPA's been something that's been mulled over for a while now, you know, a couple of years, whatever. It's kind of just a thought process. You know, so we kinda knew that that might be coming at us. I guess this just kinda sorta, you know, I don't know that you've been working at
Yeah,
this for 2
we
years.
have to start somewhere though, so we're
Yeah.
starting this
Right,
dialogue.
and we can't micromanage you, but
Yeah.
I mean,
whatever happens the next time, just be ready to
So what
vote.
would you vote for tonight? Is there anything you would vote for tonight? You don't know, or do you know? 'Cause we've all-
I'd vote for the policy.
I was gonna vote,
I'd
right.
vote, yeah.
Well, why am I telling you?
Straw
vote
poll?
for it, Rich?
Nobody's saying
Rich, you would vote for it?
Someone make a
Yeah, I mean, because I just feel like the administration is telling us that this is what's important to them and
Right.
what's going to work in their building. I guess, even though I disagree
Correct.
personally, professionally, I am respecting their opinion.
All right,
And
But I still want to see the consistency. I'm sorry, that's what I feel.
Yeah.
I want to hear what the other principals have to say.
Well, so to that point, if the other schools say they don't want to allow hats, but they want to allow hats, which way to go?
right, that's what I'm saying, it's gonna trickle,
That new information would
it's gonna
affect me.
trickle
Okay.
down.
That new information
Then
would
let's
affect
move
me.
on, because we need more information then, I guess. Unless you're gonna vote.
When would you like this information?
I think the sooner the better
Right.
for them.
well, you don't want to two-tier this then? Vote on this and then hear what everybody else has to say?
Not me,
I mean, it's going to be
To
challenging to
give
get
them.
the whole leadership team together around this, and so I'll have to schedule a special meeting just on dress code.
Well, unless can they, I mean, it would be better if everyone's together, but can
We
they?
need everybody
We've
together.
already
Look at
had
the
this discussion though, that's the thing that's frustrating, because at our leadership meeting, we had this conversation. I followed up today and I shared with you.
I'm sorry. I
That's okay.
interrupted. I feel we're uncomfortable with it at this point, and we shouldn't vote for something if we're uncomfortable with it.
And all I would ask is if you give us guidelines of specifically what you need to make you, to feel comfortable with it, because, you know, we want to make you guys happy too, but I'm not really clear of, I know Greg's very clear, no hats, but the thing with the length, I don't know what that means.
I don't like the hoodies, and this, I get the length of things is difficult, and I know the fingertip issue's not working.
I mean, you guys were at the Spartan
You know.
Town Hall last week. I mean, Ally's got a very cute dress on. I'm not trying to single out, but it's not dress code. She looks great. She
Right.
looks great. I don't want to target our girls and go around making my conversations about
Right.
the length of your skirt when they should be talking about learning, science, what's new in your life. I mean, it's
I
just
know that
not.
you understand where I'm going. It's not even so much the skirts as it is certain things that get, the shorts that get a little bit too much, and we do have stairwells, and we have to be respectful of
But we
the
do
other
have that
kids.
line about your, undergarments and private parts. You can't see them.
But what's your definition of a private part?
So we're not gonna circle back to
So
this.
this is
Beth.
what I'm
You can't
saying.
do
So
it.
for me, I have a problem with, I will always
So
have a
should we
problem with
define private
hats,
parts?
but I really have a bigger
No.
issue with the bottom half.
No.
So
I would have an issue.
So if there's going to be a discussion, I'd like to hear a discussion about the length of things too, the top and the bottom.
Well, you're targeting girls by doing that, I think.
You know,
The length of,
It's true.
I will have to say, based on experience, having been an assistant principal, length is challenging to enforce.
Right.
I'm aware, and I don't expect that, it would be, Okay.
You can't have it both ways.
We should be
Right.
moving.
No, but I don't expect somebody to come out with a tape measure, but I think that if there's somebody that you know, at least if there's a rule there, and they come in all the time and you're going, oh, how are we gonna fix this? At least there's a rule in place. You know, obviously the dress code is not enforced all the time because we're not gonna micromanage every single thing these kids wear. But it's for that one or two occasions over the course of 10 or 5 years that you're like, how are we going to address the situation? Because this student is consistently not appropriate.
And
At least
obviously,
there's a
with a
rule
good
there.
understanding of the
Alright.
student's context, right?
Let's go.
Yeah,
Right.
Right.
All
all
right.
right, well.
So we're not coming up with any conclusion.
So Mrs. Smith, you're saying that time cannot be appropriate for June 4th, you're saying the June 18th?
I think it'd be challenging to put together a full document that has consistency, considering the
So
whole had.
if this policy is accepted on June 18th, does that work for your time sequence?
The code of conduct goes out from the central office.
I know, but I mean,
No, it
for
does, Mr.
publicity and
Chair.
all that.
Yep.
We just have to be ready to vote on something on the 18th
Okay.
with that
Yeah, that's, so we
understanding.
have to vote. There's
We have to
no-
vote, there's
Right.
no, we
No
don't.
other discussion?
No,
Get together.
it's either yes or no.
Well,
wait a minute.
We can discuss it.
All right, class
Don't
rank, let's
make
go.
Alicia Kim has to say, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. We have to move on now.
Are you tabling it? Tabling it?
Yes.
Well, yes.
Table this one.
Yes. So we're going to move on to 6.2, the proposed changes to class rank, second reading.
I make a motion to approve the elimination of class rank as presented on April 30th, I think it is, as
It
the
was last meeting.
last meeting.
It's dated April 30th, the
The
document.
documents,
Documents dated April 30th.
but our last meeting
It
was
was on May 7th, May 7th. I make a motion to approve the proposed elimination of class rank as presented on our school committee meeting of May 7th, 2018.
I'll second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Sorry.
Yeah.
I do want to have a little discussion on, based on the students that did come forward during our volunteer time. I can understand the situation they're in and maybe have it for them, like, see it transitioned in. I don't know what your thoughts were on how you were going to.
Well, you guys
bring this
asked
in.
us to take a look at this
Right.
policy, so I want to make that very clear.
So I also
It
want to know,
wasn't-
like, what makes it easier, what makes it harder, if we had said for the incoming freshman class?
I think
or
it's
the-
more about the message. So you asked us to do research on it. We presented that information. We provided you a recommendation. So the message is that we believe that class rank has no bearing, is not important bearing on college acceptance. We've heard from other schools that they're moving away from this. We've seen firsthand about how it affects students emotionally. We either agree with it or we don't. And I mean, I respect the students in terms of their position, but when I've talked to them outside of this and school council, it always goes back to, I want to, I need to know that it makes me feel valued to know that I'm better than somebody else. When I think we have barometers and ways to recognize students across the board that do just that, it's a big deal to be considered in the top percentile of your class. That's not going away, but that doesn't have the emotional drama of knowing your exact placement in class. We also recognize our students with NHS honors. We talked about, with graduation, doing something formally to recognize the kids that have the high honors. We're all for that. It's that individual competition piece that colleges are saying it has no bearing. High schools are moving toward that. So it's either we believe in it or we don't. That's kind of where I'm at.
So you guys would at least consider, which, I was happy to hear, that maybe those kids at that very tippity top, without setting a number of kids to it, if they hit a certain GPA, like way up there, that you might give them a shiny little tassel or something like that.
Well, we
that would
kind of
help
do that
show
with the NHS.
You do, but that's like
But we could
the
widen the
20,
gap.
But like maybe have something,
Yeah.
think of the last kids like this year, like last year and this year, who made that top with the way the new thing is, and say, okay, here's a good benchmark, and set that benchmark, and then if they, at least then,
Absolutely.
it's huge what they accomplish.
I'm not taking away from that.
That would be
And
wonderful.
both of our conversations today have been about the social and emotional well-being of our students.
right.
I think that's a good thing. So all of these proposals are just to make sure that our kids feel safe, that our kids feel valued. And yes, we would totally be in favor of that.
And that would help out with the kids that are right there, and they're just like, especially for the kids next year, so.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion on that? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank
We are
We got
agreeable.
one for you, yeah.
Yeah, we are agreeable.
I think it's been fun.
Yeah, okay.
Do you really mean that?
I
Carry that into our meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do. All right, so
thank you.
Thank you.
feel better.
All right, thank you.
All right, so we will move on. We have Assistant Superintendent for Business Report. Yeah, we're
Yeah, we're
moving
going
back up.
backwards.
Let's go
Because
with
we
I move that we accept the Bertram Park bonus check of $500 from Good and Barrett.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Well, we see these enough, so I think we're good on that. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. I have the second.
The second one is a scholarship. This is an existing scholarship, so this is just a deposit going
Yeah.
in. So we need you to accept the $5,000 for the Leonard Preston, William and Polly Stebbins Scholarship.
That was a big increase for them.
Yeah, because he gave it, it's for the next 5 years.
From Bruce-
So they
from
actually
Bruce
put
Stebbins.
$1,000 a year. So yes, you're right, it is a
I
bit.
make a motion to approve the Leonard Preston, William and Polly Stebbins Scholarship of $5,000.
Okay, motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to 5.2.3, Mountain View Library donation from families.
So this is a $90 donation from the families of Martin, O'Rourke, Garung, Zarzabaski, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, Stefan, Dolcinos, Howard, and Boucher families. And that is for the purchase of 9 new library books for the students and staff that they're looking for your acceptance and approval on.
Move to approve the Mountain View Library donation from the families in the amount of $90 for 9 new library books.
Okay, motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Very nice of them.
Yeah, I got to abstain because I was one of them, so.
Oh, that was.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Can't accept your own
Sure,
gift.
don't pronounce that name right.
Yours,
Yeah.
Mary.
I thought it was somebody else.
Because it didn't have the margin.
Yeah,
Almost messed me up.
All right, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those
Thank
opposed,
you.
nay. That carries forward.
One extension.
Right, exactly, one
Okay.
abstention. So it's 4-0, one abstention.
Okay, we'll get those funds deposited, okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we are moving on from this. We have the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction Report, 5.3.1, Project Lead the Way Grant. Are you ready?
I'm almost afraid to show you this. Because you have a video. But this one could
No
be
video
quick.
on this
No
one.
video on this one, so I'm just getting to it. So the Project Lead the Way, you know we applied and that we did receive the grant, and so we just wanted you to formally accept that grant. And so what I've done is giving you the front page of both the high school grant in the amount of $35,000 and the Maple Shade grant, which is a $12,500 grant. And you see the grant period there is we receive the money July 1st, so it'll end up in one of the financial reports after that time.
Yeah, in September.
And you can see how it's distributed over 3 years. So we have money that comes in for both schools. Year 1, year 2, year 3 is a sustainability year, which is common with most grants.
Right.
It's just delightful.
And this is
Yeah,
for what,
and-
Missing here for supplies,
This is
resources?
for
Training.
supplies, resources, curriculum, and training. So the training for staff.
And that starts this summer.
And that starts, yes, so you'll notice that there's a start date on these grants of June 15th. That's to accommodate for teachers who may sign up for training that is prior to
Oh.
July 1st. We were able to work that out with Project Lead the Way.
Make a motion to accept the grant agreement for the project to lead the way at both of East Middle High School and Maple Shade for 2018-2019 school year.
Okay, motion made. I'll second it.
Is it only for 1 year though?
No, it
That's
goes
for three.
through.
It's
Okay.
a three-year
Well, the grant
grant.
period,
2021.
Yeah, but we're accepting the whole
2021, I'm
thing,
sorry,
Yeah,
2018
that's
through
what
2021, thank you.
so you have that correct.
We wanted to bring it forward now because the money is.
No, I know, you
Yeah.
just made the motion specific to 1 year.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we
Thank
accept
you.
it for multiple years.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion made, did it get seconded?
I did second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0. We have 5.3.2, the ST Math Grant Award.
Okay, so with Project Lead the Way, we were a little quicker because we had given you a little overview earlier in the year, and we did not have that timeline for the ST Math Grant, so you're going to get it now with some information, so hopefully this comes up. All right, so we have received an ST Math Grant at both Meadowbrook and Mountain View School I worked collectively with each of the principals and the math coaches for those buildings, and we have applied and been awarded grants in both schools. There were 97 applicants in Massachusetts, the new school applicants, and only 43 were awarded, and we were 2 of those 43. So we're feeling
Excellent.
pretty good about Gigi here, who you're going to learn a little bit more about. That's kind of the mascot of the ST Math program. And before anyone asks what ST Math means, it stands for Spatial Temporal Math. So it's all neuroscience. It's all based on neuroscience.
Can I just ask a quick question going
You
back
may.
to, how come Maple Shade wasn't included in this?
Maple
or-
Shade is a Project Lead the Way school, so they're going to
okay.
have their energies there. They do use ST Math at Maple Shade,
Okay.
just not to the extent that the grant would require, because by the end of the 3 years, 100% of your students are using the program for the intended amount of time. So there's like a daily and weekly use, not daily, but there's a weekly
A minimum,
usage
yeah.
requirement, and we figured their energies are going to be in the Project Lead the Way grant over the next 3 years, so we didn't want to overextend them.
Perfect, just want to make sure they weren't being excluded.
Yeah, oh, not at all, not at all. So this is our elementary math goal overall, which is to develop strong mathematical knowledge that is rooted in having students have deep conceptual understanding. And if we do that, then our students are going to be able to be problem solvers who are mathematical thinkers and can be flexible and persevere through problem solving. And this goal aligns with the district's goals 1 and 2. So I was going to give you a little bit of information about ST Math, and the best way I can give you the whole why as to why would we want to be implementing this program is for you to hear from the creator, and that's who this is right here. This is about a 7-minute, I'll try to stop it towards the end so that you don't have to see the whole thing, but he's going to give you a quick overview. You'll be able to see the program, what it's about. I do want to preface it that he's going to use data from California because that's where he's presenting. So don't get hung up on the percentages where he talks about the percentages, but rather he does give a pie chart of different types of learners. And in some of our schools, we may mirror those a little bit, but we won't 100% based on our population being different. I just want to give that disclaimer before I show you.
Oh, TEDx.
In school, the way of conveying ideas is through words. A teacher walks up to the board, writes words, says words. Students receive books with words and are expected to respond to questions with words. The vast majority of teaching is done through words. But let's look at who we're trying to teach. Focusing on California, 25% of students are English language learners. Another 15% have language-based learning difficulties, such as dyslexia. An additional 20% fail language comprehension tests. And a large portion of the remaining students characterize themselves as visual learners. Left over, there's only a tiny little segment of students for whom current teaching methods are a good fit. And I was one of those students way down there. I have dyslexia. And for me, words were really big learning barriers. I mean, I didn't even learn to read until I was in 5th grade. Years later, I read a biography of Albert Einstein, and I discovered that he was dyslexic too. And one quote from him really struck me. He said, "The words or the language as they are written or spoken don't play any role in my mechanism of thought." Wow. So if words are not needed for great math and science thinking, then maybe words aren't needed for great math and science teaching. And so when I started investigating how we might be able to teach without words, I was shocked at how language heavy even preschool materials are. I mean, look at this worksheet I ran across. Color the shape that is the same as the first shape in each row. They even have it in Spanish. So I wondered, what would happen if we remove all those words and hand this over to some 4-year-olds along with some crayons and don't say anything? This is what happens. We did a tell them what to do, and so they did whatever they wanted. But how do we tell students what to do without words? Here's one way. Interactive software with informative feedback. If you click on the wrong thing, it shows you why you were wrong. And when you click on the right thing, it shows you why you were right. And you can help a little penguin across the screen. Okay, so this works for shapes, but what about things like word problems? I mean, how can we do those without words? Well, here's a typical word problem from a second grade textbook. Ostriches have 2 legs. How many legs does a group of 3 ostriches have altogether? We can translate this into a completely word-free problem. Again, if you don't know what to do and you get it wrong, say you pick 8 legs, it shows you why that's wrong. We picked too many. And when you get it right, it shows you why it's right. The feedback teaches the students. It doesn't just replace the words. It provides more instruction than the words ever did. And this visual feedback is so powerful that we can use it to teach really sophisticated subjects. This is pretty sophisticated. This is a page from an Algebra 1 textbook. A very language-heavy approach. And here's what it does to our kids. Over 70% of students fail to learn this stuff. Now here's a visual game teaching the very same content. Here students are learning to factor and solve quadratic equations, all done visually with informative feedback. And because these games allow students to touch, feel, see, and interact with a math, it's able to clear up many of the mysteries about how and why math works. For instance, when only done through words, students often find it mysterious why multiplying 2 negative numbers produces a positive number. But when done visually, like in this block stretching game, students can see how multiplying by a negative number not only stretches, but also flips the block in the opposite direction. And then when you multiply by a negative number again, it ends up flipping it again back to positive. It's not mysterious anymore. It's fascinating. And so we've created hundreds of these games to teach all the math concepts from pre-K through Algebra 1. Here are some exponents and some fractions. We're basically able to boil all math down to how do you help a little penguin across the screen. But does it work? UC Irvine recently conducted a study where they put these visual games into 106 schools in Orange County. And after 1 year, we're able to triple the rate of growth in math proficiency. And last year, we replicated this result in Silicon Valley, Las Vegas, Chicago, and Houston.
So I'm going to stop there in the essence of time, because I think you get a general gist of what it is, and I'm going to go back to the...
We did triple growth.
So I'm going to share with you some Massachusetts data as well. So what he was just showing us is really this is neuroscience. So we come into problem solving with an existing schema. And through this, making a prediction, trying to get Gigi across the screen, messing it up, I have an outcome, it changes my perception, which then changes my existing schema, and then I can continue to build on that. That's the science piece behind this. So ST Math is going to help teachers by helping to build the conceptual understanding for students. It also supports procedural fluency, and then what the teachers do are help the students make connections to applying those problem-solving skills in real-world applications. So you have the whole kit and caboodle there. We have a goal to implement this in K-5 district-wide, and we do have it at Maple Shade as well. We're just going to go a little slower with maybe expanding their usage based on where their focus is going to be for the next 3 years. So in order to do that, this is what the grant covers. They do not cut us a check necessarily, but they provide, it's up at the table.
At the table, that's okay. You're more than welcome to stay. You can come back, right there, is that it?
Right, is that
Right there, right there?
No, that's fine.
Oh,
I was gonna ping it, but I didn't want to interrupt your meeting.
Sorry.
It's okay, sorry, you're not here.
So the grant provides us, they help us with creating an implementation plan. We outlined that in the grant when we wrote it and submitted it, but they come in and kind of help tailor that with us. They provide 3 days of professional development in-house. They send their experts here, and we train our staff for 3 days at a time frame that we select. And then they offer the licenses for the students. So you see there, they say based on 450 students, it would be approximately $27,000. So we took a look. There is a participation fee. If you remove the participation fee from both schools, and based on their population, it's about a $41,000 grant that we're receiving in resources. The best part of this particular grant, it's done by the One Foundation is one of the grantors. They're kind of in partnership with Project Lead the Way, same funders, different components of it though, is that at the end of this grant, because I'm not one that likes to bring in a grant and then says as soon as the grant leaves, how are we going to sustain this? We never, because we've participated in the Massachusetts program, we will never have to pay for student licenses after the 3 years. We will continue to receive what we have. There's a participation fee, which allows our staff to attend professional development, continue to have implementation support, but we will not have to incur additional costs at the end of this 3-year grant period.
Who pays for the licenses then?
The foundation that is funding this.
Okay.
Yep, so it was kind of a win-win for us.
Yeah.
We can kind of get this in for our students. So our implementation plan is gradual. We've learned through other implementations that slow is better, and we had to be really specific in our plan. They really have a goal of 100% by the end of the 3rd year. They also had a goal of 50% of your students using it at the end of the 1st year, but we were pretty savvy in how we wrote the grant, and they still awarded us even though we were below those thresholds, because we talked about this alignment. They look at individual school grants, and we discussed how this really is a district-wide initiative, and that through our experience, this is going to work best for our context. So you see here when we're adding additional grades in those 2 schools. We've met with grade 2. We're meeting with grade 3 soon, this week, maybe later this week. And what we're doing is scheduling our professional development based on the teachers' feedback around in June. It'll be one day, they'll be released in June to have the PD. So we're trying to get the system set up in order for that to happen for them. And then our students will use it in the fall, and this is a large priority for our math coaches' support in these 2 grade levels in these schools. And then I'll meet regularly with our ST Math team around monitoring their implementation and how to support them. So real quick on the numbers, because I cut off that gentleman who's pretty fun to listen to anyway. In Massachusetts, we applied to a grant that is specific just to Massachusetts. Its implementation is just consistent in Mass. And they have collected data on ST Math usage from 2014 through 2017. And what they found on the state MCAS assessments, that there has been a 7.4 percentage point increase in the number of students who are reaching proficiency, who use ST Math versus the peers who are not using ST Math. And that's just for Massachusetts. And that's a pretty significant bump considering the 2017 assessment in math looked a lot different than it did in 2014. So I would say if it was on the same assessment, this number would be even higher because the rigor was much higher. So to have that increase is pretty darn good.
So how does this coincide with the Eureka Professional Development? You still doing Eureka Professional Development?
We are doing more embedded through coaching because we've been implementing it now for 3 years. We just had 3 years.
Started when I came.
So I
Yeah.
think Kristen was like in first or second grade.
Yeah, so now we're doing it mostly in, through embedded coaching is how we're implementing. And again, we teach the standards and we talk about, we have primary resources that help us teach those standards, but there's never just one thing that's end all be all. So this works very well with Eureka Math, with the whole concept of conceptual understanding is our goal, right, and of math, and this is going to help with that tremendously, and it'll support our students with language barriers and those without as well. So it's going to be pretty
So
helpful.
you don't, you can just, I'm asking for your conjecture, you don't feel like the grade 2 and 3 teachers are gonna say, oh, more.
One more thing.
One more thing.
Well, we spoke with the principals and the coaches. The principals both said, I think we'll be okay with this. Our 3 to 5, and then we did meet with grade 2. They did not balk too much. They do have input into, they had some concerns around technology usage.
Was gonna be my question.
So we explained why we started with grade 2. I can tell you there are other grade levels at Meadowbrook who are like, hey, we're not able to do this. So we had kind of the opposite, where we had some people who wanted to get on board, and we said, well, hold on, we have another plan for professional development in math for you at Meadowbrook. I've been working with Lee Boland, who's our wonderful math coach there, and we've been kind of designing these structures for support in different things that maybe we'll share at a later time. But they were able to have voice and choice into when we do the professional development, and we shared the why video with them as well, and they were familiar with hearing about it. We had a few teachers at Mountain View who were using the program. Ann Zito, our coach for grades 3 through 5, used this for over 5 years in Westfield, and so she's really embedded and used it, and has been trying to grow this over her last few years here in the district, and so now people are ready to kind of leap into it.
So what's sort of like the minimum usage per week that you were mentioning?
Oh gosh, it changes by grade level, let's say
Oh, okay.
90 minutes. So 90 minutes, so what we talked about is whether they do 3 30-minute sessions, or if they do 5 20-minute sessions, and one of those, well, that 5th session you don't really need, it's kind of extra. And that's where the teachers are going to come into play as well, is to figure out what's going to work best for the scheduling of it. There's a lot of support too. They'll get that through their training, and our coaches are really gonna do some of the heavy lifting and supporting them in the beginning. Gonna be in the classrooms with them, setting it up, the whole thing.
And then they can pull individual data out for students from this program also?
Yes, there's a lot of different data pieces that can be pulled from it.
Not that I want everything to be about data.
No, and I'd rather call it information,
Okay,
right?
information,
So, because
thank
data
you.
is a 4-letter word and it becomes like one of the
Right,
4-letter
exactly.
words. So information about our students' learning is what they're getting. There's celebrations embedded throughout this that we wrote into each of the plans. So students are going to be celebrated for meeting milestones in their growth. You can get little postcards from Gigi, which, you know, 2nd and 3rd grade students really would enjoy.
So it's not like STAR where it's an assessment that this is?
No, it is all exactly
tool.
what you saw. The students' whole goal is to get that penguin across the screen.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
And we do have a few classrooms. Charlene LaChapelle is our math coach at the middle school. She teaches a tiered instruction course, one of the tiered math classes, and they have started to use ST Math with their tiered students as opposed to Alex, and the students are really preferring that particular intervention. So.
Interesting concept.
Can I ask a question about the money? So you say 27,000, is that an annual amount or for over 3 years?
That's a good question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I think that's annually.
Is that?
No, I think it's split up, isn't it?
Well, if
Isn't
you
it in
have
that spreadsheet?
450, well, where's that? 450 students at $60 a student.
Right, that's 27,000.
So that would be 27,000, plus what they're adding in is the PD. So 3 days of PD annually
But we have to
cost
pay
us-
for that, right?
No, they're paying, no, we are not
I
paying.
thought we had to pay
We pay, no, we
pay
pay,
the
per school, we pay a participation fee, which for one school is
Oh, okay.
$3,500.
All right, so that's why
which
I'm
is where
getting
it's the 7,000. But
Okay.
I took that out of what we are getting in services. So based on our student population in the 2 buildings, it's about a $40,000 to $41,000.
Yeah.
It would be about 48, but let's say we're paying the 7,000. So it's about $41,000.
Okay, thank you.
That's huge.
Yeah.
You got that again, huh?
Yeah.
You're just like swanky.
Just like my here to write a grant.
Wow. Still didn't understand the exponents even with, but I'm hopeless.
But you see, Your penguin wouldn't get across the screen.
My
You'd have to
penguin
keep
would
trying
never
till
get
he
across
did.
the screen.
He would. I
Can we
bet you
make
he
a
would.
motion to accept the
Thank you.
ST Math Grant Award for this starting in 18-19 school year through the 21-22 school year?
Okay, motion's made
I'll second.
and seconded. Any further discussion?
Thank you. It's really cool.
Nice job.
Good job.
Yep.
I love that TEDx website too, that's great.
Right, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just vote on that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0. Rich is waking up now.
Yeah.
All right.
All I took was Gigi the penguin.
Just in time for policy.
That's right. So we have a couple of policies coming up. And as always, these are second readings, so
I make a motion to approve the public comment at school committee meetings policy BEDH.
I'll second.
okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
Move to accept policy BHE, use of electronic messaging by school committee members.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0.
Move to accept policy BIA, new school committee member orientation.
Okay, motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any further
Yeah, we
discussion?
didn't follow the order, but we were in sync, man. We were just
We're
totally right.
We're good.
Paying attention.
You were right then.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, but that's up to you, Mr. Superintendent, to follow through on that policy, correct? All those things, okay?
Right.
Yeah, that's on you.
Yeah.
More on you. All
Yeah.
right,
Got nothing else to do.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. We have 6.6, policy BIBA. Anyone? I can't make a
It's supposed
motion.
to be bad, but
I move
let's
to
go
accept policy BIBA.
Okay, motion made
in. Equal opportunity.
I know.
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. All right, moving down. Thank you very much for all of that. We have 6.7, a fiscal year 2019 budget discussion. And now that's on you, Mr. Smith.
Okay, as you know, tomorrow is the town council's budget hearing. From meetings that have taken place over the last few weeks, we believe that we are looking at the education portion of that budget will be about a 2.1% increase from our current fiscal year budget, which does allow us to make progress and move forward. It does not necessarily move us down the entire list that we had presented in terms of needs, but it will certainly allow us to continue programming that currently is happening in all our schools and supporting students. It will also allow us to move forward on the intensive special needs program as students move to the high school. And then we need to determine how we might reprioritize in order to maximize the ability to hit as much of the goals as we set for the fiscal year 2019 budget as possible.
Okay.
I'm a little disappointed we didn't get more. I feel like it was a very convoluted process. At one point, I thought we had gotten 2.6, is that correct? It was voted on 2.6?
It was a little bit higher.
No, we originally went in with 2.8.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I think it came out to approximately 2.6, was
Yes,
it?
that's correct.
The bus thing throws it all off.
It does.
Because that's what they're approving, is that
The
percentage.
transportation.
It's a 4 it's high fours with the bus.
Yeah, I
But they had originally approved our
They had approved the supplemental budget that originally took us to
203,000.
2.8.
Right.
They approved a bottom line on the supplemental budget in a, I think, an added meeting
Yes.
on the
Yes.
budget, specifically on supplemental budgets. There was a vote to approve 2.6. Then, as the full council got back together regarding budget and reviewed the entire budget as a whole, they realized that the tax rate.
Yeah, maybe they should have done that first, huh?
Yeah.
So there
place to
was a
start.
subcommittee that was put together, and the subcommittee has met regarding.
But the council hasn't approved it yet, right? Just to be perfect.
No.
Tomorrow
Right.
night.
Tomorrow night is the budget hearing.
This is a budget hearing.
And will they actually vote on something?
That I don't know, if it's the final
have to-
vote or just the presentation of the...
They have to
They have to
vote
have
it
it
by
by
June
June
1st, so
So they can even wait till the last day in May.
they can schedule another
They're only a
meeting.
week away.
Right, it would have to be
Wow.
a special
It's
meeting.
hard to say if they're gonna vote on it tomorrow night, it really is.
It is a little
So I
disappointing.
would
especially
imagine-
some
It
of
is
those
disappointing.
higher
How would they know
needs.
it's even coming, the rest of them that are on the subcommittee, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's gonna be a discussion. I don't think they're gonna vote. I don't know. But you've got a subcommittee that's gonna report out to the full committee.
Yeah.
So we'll
Well,
have
I'm
to wait and see.
disappointed. I feel
Tune in.
that we were, when I say we, I mean you two, were very well organized. It was a very thoughtful process, actually, from all of us. We were very, I think, prudent in what we asked for. And I respect the fact that we don't want the tax rate to go crazy, but I also feel that we had things in our supplemental budget, which I hope in the future are never in a supplemental budget, they should be within our budget. Things like intensive special needs teacher, that is a budget item. We have students that are coming in, we can't go without that. And also moving forward into such items as a social emotional, I mean, we really, and I would like to think that they would think about this even tomorrow. The social emotional learning is, you don't realize how big it is until you've really spent some time in a school and see what kids are struggling with. I hope that in the future they think about this as they move along, and we have to think about our approach too. I think we need to be, some things, it's our budget, and this is it, we need it, and, we're not asking for the world.
Well, I think the whole process has to be more clearly defined going forward, because this year, there was no guidance. Even if they had come out and said, okay, contractual is one line, your supplemental can be up to 1 or 2% or whatever, that would have helped.
Right. And you could think that we could just pull some of these things out of our current budget and how we have it, but you never know tomorrow what's going to walk through the door and what we're going to have to deal with, and we have to be careful with the monies that we spend, that we have been allocated.
Right.
So.
I think on the town spreadsheets, the departments were within their contractual obligations advised to see if you can keep that within 2%, and then the supplemental budget
That's correct, so-
taking you possibly up to 3%, and we were within that.
Right.
So
Both
we were
contractual
given some
obligations.
instructions from, the town
And we followed them.
accountant.
Right.
And
Then
I
we came in at
think
2.8,
2.8.
that's correct.
under the 3.
And we explained our process to the town manager and the finance director, and it was very clear, and we were fiscally prudent. I think that there was a little bit of a disconnect between, and we talked about this at the meeting, so I'm not saying anything that wasn't already spoken about. I think there was a little disconnect between the directions that were given to the departments and then what the expectations were of the town council. And they too, at that meeting, recognized that this didn't really work this year, it can be better. So I think we're all on the same page with that. It is very unfortunate that our budget was cut the way I believe it's going to be tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm being led to believe it already has been cut, so.
How is it already cut? They haven't met as a
I
council.
think it's a recommendation.
It's a recommendation.
The committee,
It's a recommendation.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Recommendation from the subcommittee.
That's what I
fine.
mean.
The thing
That's
of it
fine.
is we don't really know what they're going to say, and that's kind of a scary thing for us, because we're assuming we're going to go in and we're going to get at least what they say, but we don't know. And we've never had that feeling going into our budget. And this is the second year they've done it, and they respectfully need to figure it out, because all the departments need to know what's happening.
Right. Well, I don't think last year
It was the first year, I get
was
it.
the first year, and
Yeah.
I think this year was less smooth than last year.
Well, I think part of the problem was you've got the $500,000 for the busing that was thrown in there, the increased ambulatory service,
Right.
which is a huge
The
price
town,
tag,
yeah.
regional dispatch, which is going to take effect. All of these are huge one-time drains on a budget. Granted, the ambulance will start generating revenue, but they can't project how much revenue, will it be self-sustaining? There's just too many unknown factors. They
But
knew
we
about
had
the $500,000.
And we discussed it with them.
Right.
You know this is coming, you're okay, this is what you want. They wanted it
But I
to
think-
free up employees, and-
Right, but I think when the whole thing was put together, there was sticker shock when they saw it for the first time and realized what it did to the tax rate, at adding $1.05 to the tax rate. And that's when they started, well, we can't live with that. And I can understand that because we're all taxpayers here. But I think that should have been realized a lot earlier in the game and not sometime at the beginning of May,
So that's tomorrow's meeting, 7 o'clock, right?
6 o'clock, I
6
think.
o'clock
No,
meeting.
6, I'm so
The budget
sorry.
hearing is at 7.
The
Okay.
hearing is set for 7, so,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't have to.
They've got their regular agenda at 6, so.
Okay.
Do it, Rich.
The motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry,
Well,
she wanted
I
to
just
say
want to do a few more things. We have to thank Mr. Mack. We also want to,
My fault. It was-
yeah. Which
It's been over
Ally,
3
this
hours.
is
Let's
Ally's
go.
last meeting. This is why we
Oh,
want
yeah,
to
thank you,
recognize
Ally.
Charlie.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you, and good luck with everything. Enjoy.
Enjoy college.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely enjoy it.
Definitely.
Actually, enjoy your final 2 weeks of high school.
Yeah, there you go.
I know.
Today, you had your last full day, right?
It's
It
a very
was,
special.
Yeah, it was Friday.
yeah, so this is all like half
Final.
days.
See you at graduation.
Senior
Yeah, we'll see
activity.
you, we'll see you at graduation.
Yeah.
Perfect. So now you may have the floor to,
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0. All right, we're good. Thank you.